Welcome to Stan Now Considers All Things. This is episode 11 in our series. What it means to be a well-educated person. Just taking 32 courses at some university and completing some hodgepodge of a major, some courses in the central field, does that make you well-educated? Does it even give you a start at being well-educated? With most universities nowadays, it is my suspicion that it probably doesn't. Being well-educated does not mean you're learning a trade. Being well-educated doesn't mean you just attended college somewhere. The doctor, medical doctor. Suppose he's a foot doctor, just to name a particular kind. And he knows all of the names of the toes that I have. And this one little went to market, and this one little stayed home, and so on. And suppose he makes $120,000 a year. Does that make that foot doctor well-educated? He certainly knows about his field, but not a liberal education necessarily. In the book called Prof. Scam, they talk about some of the courses that are offered in our nation at some of the famous colleges. At Kent State, there's a course called Camp Leadership. And you study the role of the camper and the counselor. Oh, that's really deep. Or at that Kent State, you study the socio-psychological aspects of clothing. At the University of Massachusetts, at Amherst, you can take a course toward your bachelor's degree in ultimate frisbee. At UCLA, Video 454. The only textbook is the Rolling Stone Book of Rock Video, and you get a field trip to Hollywood where you can act as one of the extras in a rock video for credit toward your bachelor's degree. I could teach you all kinds of neat stuff so you could be the hit of the party. I got my friend here, Daisy Duck. I could teach you about ventriloquism. I could teach you keep your mouth, stationary. And you look at her, hello, Daisy, and she says, hello, hello. Wow, hello. And you can put your finger in her mouth. This kind of stuff. Wow. But is it central to a liberal education? I could teach you real ventriloquism, not just the thing I just did now. I'm going to my grocery store, and I have purchased a dozen bagels. This is the last one. It is about 8 or 9 days old, and we have to be, it's kind of solid, and the rest. And it is big. This is a big bagel. Right? Hardly put it in your mouth. Well, have you seen how to do ventriloquism while you're eating? Okay, I got to put down the plate. I got the bagel. I take a bite off of it, and I stick out one eye, and put it in the side there. Okay? Now I got my excuse on the beard. Oh, this is dry. And then I can put another bite, take another bite, like that. And like that. And then I take another, like that. Right? And then I take another, see? Now you can sort of talk like this. But you stick another one. Yeah. Now you notice, it's obvious. I can talk again. It turns out with 2 straws you can talk. It's the secret. 2 straws. Now, with the 2 straws, I could make a course about this whole thing. I could make a course in the origin, the diffusion, the emergence, the spontaneity, the diversity of ventriloquism. But enough of these junk courses, these Mickey Mouse courses. Oh, with apologies, of course, to Daisy. The American Association of American Colleges issued a report in 1985. And I can talk, I'll even stuff some more in my mouth, on the state of the curriculum. And it said professors unquestionably offer in the courses exquisite examples of specialized learning. But who looks after the shop? Who reviews and justifies and rationalizes the academic program for which the college awards the coveted bachelor's degree? Who? I'll put some more in now. Just, you see, I stuff it in. I can still talk. But what's important, as neat as a ventriloquism is, you know that it isn't the heart of a good liberal education, the central body of shared knowledge that we must all have experienced. It may be necessary for you to become. I can't talk now with my mouth empty. But I can't. But it's just. One moment, please. It may be necessary, now I can talk, for you to become an autodidact. Philosophy. At the heart of what it means to be a well-educated person. As we've talked about in the past, in past sessions of Dan Now Considers All Things, we've looked at metaphysics, the nature of the world. We've looked at epistemology, how you know, what you trust in gaining knowledge. And now we want to look at ethics. Ethics means what you value. Do you value honesty, pity, loving your uncle, your own health, being emotionally calm, having lots of money in your checking account, staying alive, defending South Vietnam against northern aggression? Wait a minute. Of all the values that I've listed, and those are only some of the values that a person might have, those values conflict with each other. In fact, most values that you choose will conflict with each other. You can't have 2 or 3 primary values. You want to become a famous rodeo star, and you also value not having broken bones. Ooh, no way. Doesn't happen. That's part of philosophy. When it comes to ethics, the value system that you choose, you engage in dealing with conflict between several values that you want. You want to love everybody, one value, and another value, I don't want to be around rude people. You're in trouble. I want to be fit, strong, and I don't want to exercise. I want to be well-read, because Stan told me you're supposed to be well-read of the great texts, but I don't want to open a book. Conflict in the values. In your ethics, what you value must be ordered. You have to make a hierarchy of the top values you have, the medium ones, and the ones that really aren't important. What's nice is that what you choose is not necessarily what your neighbor chooses. It's not necessarily what your coworker chooses or your relatives. Isn't that wonderful? You choose for yourself what your values are. You may choose to follow any master of any kind you choose, or you may totally choose to carve your own values out of thin air. In the old days, way olden times, the tribe, those 40 or 50 people that you wandered with, and your ancestors wandered with, they chose those values for you. Today, you have the freedom to choose most of the time, unless you belong to a modern day tribe, a gang or something like that, or you're in the military, and many of the values are chosen for you. Well, you decide, well, I'm not going to choose today. Today's not a good day to choose your values. Well, if you don't have those values chosen by yourself, then you sort of go on default setting. Whatever you happen to have heard on TV or heard from your coworkers as to what's important, honesty or pity or self-reliance, or just the whim. Today I think my values will be this, and tomorrow that. As a philosopher, I would suggest that for your hierarchy of values, your system of ethics, for your personal philosophy, that it is well worth your time to work, to look at, to choose for yourself.
Like my shirt? It's a yacht. Welcome to the wonderful world of economics. In economics, it's a strange world. Actions have consequences. Let's play economics. Let's pass a maximum wage law. Let's pass a maximum wage law. How much should a person be at most allowed to earn? Oh, let's say $40 an hour. That's about 10 times, 8 times minimum wage. No one in the United States should be allowed to earn more than $40 an hour. That'll put a cap on it all. Yeah. All right, we've passed the law. No one makes more than $40 an hour. And then I get a cut on my finger. Oh. And I go and I try and find a doctor. Well, I dial up the number and it's disconnected. The doctors, if $40 an hour is all they're allowed to make, have taken jobs that are a little easier to do and a lot less stressful than doing the things that I prefer not to do. I don't want to be a doctor, you know, and put your fingers in certain spots and look at blood and pain and the rest. And they didn't want to either. So they found jobs for $40 an hour that were more pleasant to do. That's a rational action, a consequence. And I can't find my accountant anymore because he's taken an easier job. And suddenly something's wrong. Okay, look at it from, I'm now an employer in this brave new world where $40 an hour is the maximum wage. And I'm going to do a TV show. Wait a minute. Yeah. But I mean a real one that'll bring them in like the famous people who do TV shows. An interview show. Who should I? Well, I was thinking of a lot of those movie stars. And I invited each one of them. And said, well, there's a law, I can only pay you $40 an hour, but since their interest in the bank is making thousands of dollars a day, they don't want to spend their time at $40 an hour. The best I could do is I interviewed my sweetheart here, and I said to her, now you're famous, will you work for $40 an hour? She laughed at me. She said, I'm the only duck in the world that's got hair like this, and I'm special. You're not kidding. And wow. And with his neat costume and the little lacings on the edges of her shirt or pants or whatever it is. But even Daisy wouldn't work with me for $40 an hour. She said, no, it's not possible because I've got better things to do. I'm off on vacation. Change the scene. Now, let's play minimum wage. 1947. Oh, what a year. Minimum wage was low in 1947. It was almost insignificant. Teenagers, when they wanted to get a job, and they didn't have many skills like teenagers nowadays, they're not fully trained and they don't have 10 years worth of experience in general. They go to an employer, the minimum wage is low, they can sweep and clean, and the employer hires them. In 1947, the teenage unemployment, this is economics, was roughly the same as the general unemployment. 1947. Then comes the 50s and the 60s, and our government raised the minimum wage, and raised it again, and raised it again, and raised it again, and raised it again, all through the 50s and 60s. Teenage unemployment shot through the roof. It went to the moon. Teenage unemployment was much higher, significantly higher than the general unemployment after the blessing, in quotation marks, of a minimum wage. If I'm an employer and I have to pay X number of dollars an hour minimum, and I have two people come to me, one's a teenager with very little experience and maybe little education, and one is an individual who is in his 30s and who has had years of experience doing the job, and they're both willing to work for that minimum wage, I will hire the one that has more experience, if I'm allowed to. And the teenager goes unemployed. In the 1970s, with the minimum wage rising, black teenagers had an unemployment rate twice that of white teenagers. And white teenagers had an unemployment rate higher than the general population. When you have a thing, oh, I'm going to make a minimum wage, what it means is that individuals who might have been employed now are unemployed because no one wants to pay them that amount. If we had a minimum wage, if $4 an hour is good, $5, why not $10 an hour for minimum wage? Then you could support a family on that. Well, what it would mean is more people would become unemployed. It's just that actions do have consequences in the real economic world.
What's this program all about, you think to yourself? What's the point of all these segments? Well, if I, Stan, were a politician, I'd do a program like this and I could get recognition. People would recognize me and I could get votes. Or if I were a real estate agent, people knowing the name of Stan Schmidt would say, oh yeah, I need to sell a house, I'll call him. But I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a politician, not a real estate agent. instead of doing the things that I do here, of writing the scripts, doing the taping, the editing, for producing a 1-hour program every week, there's temptations that I have. I could be out with my rose garden. I've planted about 150 roses around my house. You know, and during good weather like it is today, it'd be nice to be out there. But I choose not to be. I'd rather be doing this. In the wintertime, when the snow is blowing and it's freezing outside, there's always the temptation. I could be curling up in bed or at my reading couch, reading one of the good books. I get a lot of pleasure out of that. But I'd rather be here with those temptations calling. This program, Stan Now Considers All Things, really doesn't consider all things. I don't consider manners or baseball scores or horse racing. Those are not part of what I want to consider. The theme of this program, the central issue, is what it means to be well educated. To be well educated doesn't mean that you'll learn just a lot of stuff. Baseball statistics don't bring you 1 inch closer to being well educated. The central issue in being well educated is, what does it mean to be fully human, fully alive? What does it mean to live a life that has direction to it, that has meaning, that offers fulfillment? And the segments of this program, week after week, come at it from literally 16 different directions. And I pick out of those 16 directions several of them to present each week. I've had segments from the direction of philosophy, or from the direction of history, or art, or mathematics, from the Bible, on health, and so on. There's 16 topics. And I try not to be like those college teachers that we used to say behind their backs that they were tenured and retired in place, and just dispensing facts, one after dreary, another fact, for us to memorize and to spit back to them on the tests. I don't want to be like that. If I talk about, for example, science, I don't want to be saying, well, this little creature that lives in the ocean can live best in 2 to 4 molar or normal salinity. You know, facts, one after another. When I attended a Berkeley lecture once in biology, that was one of the things that he was talking about, and everybody was busy writing it down to memorize it like a tape recorder. But that doesn't bring you 1 inch closer to being well educated. When I talk about science, I want to talk about the view of the universe, what it means for you to be you in the environment, in the world you live in, the big picture. When I talk about poetry or literature or sociology, that same view has to be there for me. It's television programming in the hopes that you may be filled a little bit more with wonder and a sense of awe about the life and the world you live in, rather than spending your hours in front of what has been called the electronic, flickering, blue-tubed babysitter.
Comfort ye, my people, saith your God.
Speak ye comfortably to Jerusalem, and cry unto her that her warfare is accomplished, that her iniquity is pardoned. Words from the prophet Isaiah. The Bible has made a very deep mark on Western civilization. Imagine the dust jacket on a Bible saying, bestseller for 400 years. 400 years, and now in its 100,000th printing. Go into B. Dalton's or Walden's or Barnes & Noble. Even in Reno, not one of the current bestsellers has the same amount of book space as do Holy Scriptures today. Napoleon wrote a book surpassing all others. Frederick Buechner recounts of how the great Protestant theologian Karl Barth viewed reading the Bible. Barth said, reading the Bible was like looking out the window and seeing all these people gazing up at heaven, into the sky. All of them are excited. But what they're seeing is hidden from our eyes by the roof ahead of us, above us. Something's happening which we can't see directly, or something's about to happen. We read the Bible to see the expression on their faces. Those people looking upwards.